everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Who went out last night?
Day 3.
None of you went out last night? Two people just raised their hand that they went out last night. Y'all are lying.
Wow, you guys they're super alert. No one's hungover? Not one person.
Is everybody here with
Except
their boss?
for me.
What's happening,
I'm
people?
proud of you guys.
Usually I feel like we're all come on, anyone.
No.
I'm not moving forward until someone else admits they went out last night.
They're thank you over there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now the conference can begin.
Yeah. It's like, what kind of conference is this?
Well, don't disappoint me, lesbians.
Because
I have a kid and I had to go home. I was hoping you all were out.
We didn't want to be the only ones hungover.
Fair.
It's hard, guys.
Anyway, welcome back. Day 3.
Day 3.
We are thrilled to have you here. We have such a killer day planned for you.
Yes. So if you take out your pamphlets, page 17, this is what we are doing all day. We have a pitch competition. Are you guys excited for that today? It's one of the most exciting events. It's awesome. You get to hear so many cool businesses, and really, there are so many people that have taken off after the pitch competition here, and you see them on the cover of The Atlantic in Fast Company, and it's really, really dope. So
true. Or you heard from them yesterday, Robin Exton, who's totally making it big. So pitching is a great skill, and that's that's what I teach. So I'm excited for the pitch competition, but also
slight plug.
That's what I teach. No, you know what else we have?
What?
Jeopardy finals.
Ah! Now, wait, is Kim in the audience still? We had hula hoops. We have hula hoops again. Do we have our Jeopardy winner from last time? In here? No? Okay,
Zoe?
Folks. Well, then we're starting fresh today.
Okay. So
and I
Jeopardy
have better
finals.
categories. Guess what we don't have? Drone.
I'm going home. Thanks, everybody.
Just so you know, because that was Andrea's category.
Taking my drone and I'm going home.
Okay.
All right. I think let's get this started, right?
You guys ready?
You ready? All right. Before we get started, I need a little more energy in this room. I want you to turn the person next to you a little high five. Both sides.
Say welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that feels better.
Now we feel like you're here. You're with us. All right, clap it up for the first talk.
Let's go.
It's early, isn't it? Well, there's a lot of firsts that you saw on that video, but shockingly, this is the first time Arlen and I have ever been on stage together.
Yes, that's very shocking.
So we have Lesbians who tech to thank for that. Thank you, Leanne.
Because Stephanie is the reason I was on the cover of Fast Company. She's the editor of Fast Company, so she's the reason that I was on it. So I really appreciate that, and I'm excited to talk today.
Yeah, so we're gonna chat for a little bit, and then we really want to open it up to questions from all of you. So when we turn over the stage to you, please stand up, say your name, say who you are, and then, as the title says, ask Arlen anything. You can ask me some things, but really the main event here is Arlen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Fast Company cover, because even though we live in this digital age and we live in a world where we get all our information on our mobile devices, there's still something about being on the print cover of a magazine that is meaningful to people. Can you share with us a little bit about what it meant for you to have your face on the cover of a national business magazine?
Well, first of all, the list that I had been crafting for years of my that list that you keep of people, I just sent the copy to all of them in person. And it's easier to do that with it being print. I honestly...
Was it just the magazine, or did you also send like
it's like a glitter bomb, and want to give them a little joy. No, I mean, it was surreal, and I still have this. I have this shirt on that Queen Latifah's holding the cover. This is the shirt, so it's a meta shirt. Thank you. But this is an actual shirt picture of her holding the cover, and to me, as much as I kind of play around with it and I joke about being vain and everything, it really was about, like, especially with like Fast Company, you coming in and kind of changing things. I hadn't seen someone like me on the cover of a business tech magazine. I hadn't seen someone who looked like me or someone I could relate to. So it was really just so exciting, and it was more exciting for the me of 5 years ago than it was for me getting all the accolades. All right. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Well, one of the best photos that I think someone from your Backstage Capital family tweeted out was a picture of a young African-American girl. She looked like she was maybe 11 or 12 years old, hunched over what looked like a cafeteria table, reading a copy of Fast Company magazine, which to me was probably the most meaningful image to come out of that entire experience. I love the picture of Queen Latifah holding Fast Company, but as great as it is to see famous people holding your magazine, it's so much more meaningful to see a young person, to your point, seeing what is possible for her and realizing that someone that looks like her could be on the cover of a business magazine.
I mean, there are so many people who sent pictures like that of themselves holding it or of their children being shown it or something like that. And, I cried for a year, basically. I mean, it was just so touching and moving, and I'm often able to take myself out of situations that I'm in and just look at the moment as it is and just say, wow, that's remarkable. And if it had been any of the 50 black queer women that I know who had been on the cover, I think I would have felt the same. I would have felt the same if it were Stephanie Lampkin who just spoke upstairs. I would have felt, the same kind of pride, because it was just like representing what we are. And I think a lot of people, I was just like such a dork when I'm a dork now, but I was such a dork when I was younger, and I was so, I felt so like an outcast, and I felt so awkward, as many people feel that age, but even more so because we didn't have any money, and so I was always like wearing the same clothes, and my hair wasn't done really well, so I'd always get made fun of, and all those things. And it's like now, I want to do like a flyover of the neighborhood I grew up in, where I'm sure a lot of people are right now, and just like a picture of it, like this is me, and then also this could be you.
As many milestones as that cover symbolizes, not only for you but for a community, it feels like there's still so much work left to be done. You spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley. You spend a lot of time talking to entrepreneurs and founders. Where are we at in the game? Are things better, or do you still feel like the investing world needs a kick in the pants?
Both. We are better than when I got into the mix, and better than it was 10, 20 years ago, I think. But we are better because I think it's very important that we recognize the progress that has been made, because so many people have been working on it, that if we were to just do a blanket, nothing's better attitude about it, then what hope does that give us to go forward and be better? It's not as good as it needs to be. It's not going as fast as it should be, but it is getting better, and it's because of us. It's not because of guys or whomever we're talking about having this huge change of heart, but there are some incremental changes that are being made, whether it's because they're being forced to do it by their bottom line, or they're being forced to see it just because of the time we live in. And then there are so many who are just starting to wake up a little bit. And so I think that, I think there's still a ways to go, and happy to continue this work.
There are so many people in this audience who know your story, know that you were basically sleeping in an airport while you were trying to raise money for a fund and transform yourself into a venture investor. Yours is a story of incredible stick-to-itiveness. What advice do you have for the people in the room who are trying and finding that they're bumping up against a wall, whether it's trying to make a move professionally, trying to transform themselves, trying to work inside an environment where they don't feel like their voice is being heard? Talk a little bit about what everybody in this room can do to help the cause and to help diverse voices be heard.
Well, the last part, what you said, is really interesting, because the thing that keeps me motivated every day is that it's not about me, that it's bigger than anything that I could be doing. It is about representing for someone else. And it's the thing that made me able to speak on stage when I had incredible stage fright for most of my life, was finally sitting down on a stage after being literally forced to do so, and then looking out in the audience and being so nervous, and then looking out into the audience and seeing the faces of people. In this case, it was the faces of about 50 black women looking back at me, just wanting to be represented and to hear from someone that they related to. And as soon as I made it about them and understood that it truthfully was about them, all the other kind of fear melted away in a real way. And so if you're a kind of person where fear is holding you back, or imposter syndrome, that type of thing is holding you back, or just not wanting to shake the boat or rock the boat because you're in a stable place, but you do have that little tinge, you want to make a difference, you want to move forward in your life and your career, if you think about who might be positively affected by you sharing your voice, or doing that thing, or putting yourself in a position where you can now affect change in the company. You think about where you are today, and are you in a position where you can affect change? And if not, maybe that's the thing that catalyzes you, rather than I want to make $10,000 more a year, or I want to have this title on my resume, because those types of things tend to ring hollow after a while. They don't get you up in the morning.
We're going to go to questions in just a minute. Arlen, give everybody an update on the status of Backstage Capital, because I know
that's a long update. Whew. We have gone through so many ups and downs and zigzags, as most people here who have companies know, or work at a company, a fast-growing company, and in doing so while funding other companies. So I guess the summary of it is that to date, I've raised about $10 million total when it comes to investment money and operations capital in the last 4 years. Actually, September 15th will be the 4-year anniversary of our first check from Susan Kimberlin. Oh, okay. Thank you. And that's been like 25,000, 100,000 at a time, just never giving up. We've invested in about 130 companies total since in those 4 years, and we had an accelerator that happened this year. 4 cities across 2 countries, 24 companies 1,900 applications came through in a 5-week period, and that just shows you the appetite that's there and the talent that's there. We were bummed that we couldn't invest in probably 60 or so that didn't get in, just because that's how high the caliber was. And we have gone from, it started with me, and then at one point it was like 3 people, then it was 7 at the end of 2017. At one point in 2018, we were up to 45 people when you counted our accelerator team, which is half of that. And now we're back down to about 10 people. And we've gone through all these different lives and iterations of what Backstage is. I think, and we've had a lot of, I guess setbacks is the term for it. It's just that I think people kind of from the outside see certain setbacks and they think it's like going to just knock us down. But what they have to understand is that before they heard about me or Backstage, I was getting a setback a day, like for years, So those types of things, where we wanted to raise a $36 million fund that the video showed, and we had an anchor, and then the anchor left, and then it's taking us much longer to raise. Those types of things suck in the moment, but then we turn around and we look at it and we're like, but we also invested in 30 companies this year, and we also have our portfolio has raised a total of like more than $100 million if you combine all of the companies in the last 2 years, and some of those companies are here, So I look at those as I look at it, I kind of balance it within. Also, just kind of on a personal note, I got married like a month ago. Yes. Look at Anna. You see Anna? And that's our officiant, who is very, very curious about me. She's very skeptical. But that's Anna. She's queer German girl on Twitter, if you want to say hi to her. And she's in LA right now at our home.
And so do you still aspire to get a big limited partner in there and raise a fund of
Absolutely.
The size that you had originally
there's
set
not
up?
enough time here to really get into it, but here's the thing. Like, venture funds, they're cloaked in all of this mystery. I've been completely transparent about how venture funds operate and what that is, and kind of giving people that behind-the-scenes look of it. A venture fund, you're raising millions and millions of dollars from people who don't really know you, and it's a very transactional thing, and it takes people sometimes years and years and years to raise a certain amount of money. Sometimes people don't ever get to raise $10 million like we have. Like, they don't even make it to that point. And sometimes people can raise $1 billion, like literally $1 billion in a month-long period just by asking some friends. And so everything in between is what happens in the real world. And so what our mission is to get capital and resources into the hands of underestimated founders for the rest of my waking days. So of course, we still look to raise, and we still do raise. We raise on a daily basis. I just don't go out and kind of moan about it, because it's that part of it is like the grind, And I'll talk about ups and downs. I have a podcast called Your First Million. Encourage you to listen to that, because I talk about the ups and downs of raising, but also how we raise money, and so I'm very transparent about it. I think that what I'm looking forward to is 2020 is like looking really exciting, as far as it's kind of like, because we have not been welcomed with open arms by the institutional world, we kind of get to go back to my indie roots of, we're hackers. I'm a hacker. That's how I got here. And I get to kind of go back to that because we have less to work with. And when you have less to work with, and when people are saying no to you, even when people are saying yes a lot, when they're saying no to you, that means that you're holding on to more equity, you're more ownership, more control. And you get to kind of chart your own course now. So there's a lot of really interesting things coming up, and some media things at the very end of that as well.
Great. Let's go to questions from the audience. I think we have some mic runners, and if you could,
Y'all should cage fight.
yeah, right next to each other.
Or arm wrestle. I mean, this is Lesbians Who Tech. Arm wrestle. We'll do that.
All right. And again, stand up and identify yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Ray Martin. I'm going to try not to cry. Anyway, first off, thank you for speaking. And I was also very inspired by your cover. I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you feel when it comes to angel investing.
Okay.
Because I've been personally reached out to by other venture capital funds to like give my own personal money. And I've always turned back to them and said, well, who are you investing in? If you're not investing in people like me, why should I give you my money? Right? And so maybe you can speak to if you've put thought into creating a network, whether that's queer women, black women, what have you, that pool our resources from an investor perspective. That's a little different than venture capital, I know, but just want to get your perspective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question. I want to know who these funds are who are asking you. I mean, not now, but, we'll talk later.
Well, I mean, I think it was through an alumni thing. So
I see.
I got reached out for, it's a fund. I guess I shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, you probably want to say it.
Whatever.
We'll talk about it later. Absolutely, 100%. In fact, right now we have, it's more of a dormant project that we're working on. We wanted it to just time got out of the way, but it's called Backstage Crowd, which is backstagecrowd.com. You can be on the waiting list for it if you want to sign up for it and kind of know what we're up to. We kind of kicked it off this year with the hopes that we would be sort of like an angel list for our portfolio, because even if we had, let's say we had a $50 million fund right now, would be awesome. That's still not going to, you have to invest your fund over a 3 to 5 year period, really, with follow-on as half or 2/3 of that. So if you really break down the math and you understand that we're seeing thousands of companies a year investing in about 1 to 2% of those companies, when you break down that these companies are raising anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million that we're looking at, and we're going to put in our $250K check or our $500K check or $1 million check in some cases, eventually, we still need to close the gap on that. And that's when we have to turn to other VC funds. My hope is that what we're really doing is or both, either this earlier process, which is, I mean, how cool would it be to have like 10 or 12 angel investors that we helped you source to put the first $50K in and to be your mentors, because that's the second most asked question we get is, can you be a mentor? And we're working with you to get you to the point where you can take our 250 once we get to that point, and then we're, as a team, taking you to the next level. And then I also really love crowdfunding in general. I do love that concept, but I know that a lot of VCs don't like when companies crowdfund when they're trying to invest them in the next round, if you're going to go the VC route anyway. I mean, to be honest with you, I became a venture capitalist so that I could one day be an angel investor. So if you are in the position to be an angel investor today, I always see people coming this way and saying, I want to start a fund, I'm an angel investor, how did you start a fund? I'm like, go back, just go. Have you ever seen Good Times, the episode? Never mind, there's a Good Times episode that really relates to this. I'm not going to get into it right now because I could. But they're talking about people going from Chicago to Mississippi and people going from Mississippi to Chicago, and they're both saying go back, right? It's like, because it's like grass is always greener. But I can tell you, having been both, which I am both, that angel investing is a heck of a lot more fun, and then you have a lot more control. And right now in this group, you can probably link up, get your squad. 5 people that make $5,000 investments with you, $2,000 investments, that's $10,000 to an aspiring founder. That's a big deal. We have this question here. Right behind you.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Jess Schmida, CTO of Axios.
Hey.
Hey. First off, sign me up for that Backstage Crowd. That's really exciting. The question I was wondering about, there was a conversation yesterday on the podcast about SoftBank coming in and just like blowing up rounds basically around people. And then there's also been a lot of conversation about a bubble in VC. And I'm really curious about, frankly, both of your perspectives on how that's going, how that's impacting especially your investments and other things like that.
I'll speak from my point of view, and I would love to hear your point of view too, because the thing about, like, so I've talked to SoftBank, I've been in their offices and had conversations with them, and I think what they're doing is interesting, and there's a whole, like, controversy about what they're doing, but I think what they're doing is interesting. But the funny thing is, it's like when all of these things are blowing up around, and all of these investors with these gigantic funds are yelling at each other, or dissing each other online, or doing these think pieces, we at Backstage are just continuing to do our work because we aren't invited to the party. We are the kids on the outside who didn't get invited to the party, so we're making our own party, and that's sort of the trends and the whims of the market do not affect us in a way that they would affect a fund that was invited in. And so it's really funny to watch. I get to see it from a certain perspective. I get, believe me when I say everybody reaches out to me to get my perspective behind the scenes and then acts like they don't know us, you know, when we're walking in. But we have all the back channels, but we also, because we're writing these smaller checks and because we're really in it, we're in the trenches, we are a startup ourselves, we get to be out of the fray unless I want to, you know, go online and tweet about it, which I tend to do. We are kind of protected from that, and I think we can be helpful because we see it from a perspective that is not often seen.
I would echo what Arlen said. I mean, we did a big cover story on Masa Son in February. It was not as great a cover as Arlen's, and quite honestly did not sell as well because he's just not as handsome as she is.
Did y'all hear that?
But
Y'all hear that? $100 billion fund didn't sell as well. Okay. Can't nobody tell me nothing.
But he has a very specific investment thesis, and the kinds of companies he's investing in are quite honestly not the kinds of companies that are the only companies that are the future of technology and business. They're, you know, these are very big companies. There's a whole sort of AI theory that underlies what he is investing in. And, you know, the last time Arlen and I were together, it was at an event where the founders of Mommy, which is a company that Bumble Fund invested in.
And we did as
there.
well.
And
I led their round recently.
You know, SoftBank is not interested in that company. They should be, but they're not, because it's a very different kind of company than the ones that, you know, and I don't really, let's not even just talk about SoftBank. I mean, you know, Sequoia's not in that company, Andreessen Horowitz is not in that company.
It's really their bad and their loss, but you're very right that today they're not. And I almost think it's a blessing if you think, you know, is because there would be a pressure and a type of company they would have be forced to grow at that stage that would not be enjoyable, I don't think. If you look at WeWork and you look at Uber, which are, I believe, both SoftBank investments, I may be wrong, but I think they're both, and they're just fighting to survive right now, and there's no profit, there's you know, it's just this thing constantly, and it's like, you have to keep up with that, really? You know, so I really, when I step into the role of just pure kind of nerding out on the venture scene, I kind of think it's really interesting what SoftBank is doing, and that's why I went in to meet with them. But when I step away from it and say, as it relates to Backstage, the way SoftBank to me relates is if SoftBank were to say, you know, we make $100 million investments like we're throwing cards around. What if one of those $100 million investments was thrown to Backstage or a fund like ours, or a few of our funds, and we were able to put that money to work so that in 10 years and 7 years and 4 years, the companies we're working on now become investable by a SoftBank.
So there is a bubble, but there's not a bubble for the mommies of the world.
Yeah, the bubble is real. I think it's here. It's, you know, something's gonna break something, and I don't hope for it. A lot of people kind of bank on that, and they're like, that makes me, because I'm outside of it, I can't wait for there to be a bubble that pops. I don't want that either. I do see it. I do see that it's frothy, as they say. There's a lot of money out there, but I just hope that since we can see it today, I don't know why I'm spitting so much, since we can see it today, what we should do is be prepared for it and understand what our position is in that whole world. That means be scrappier, be more creative, bootstrap longer, and hack more, and that be revered rather than everybody trying to chase the VC money. Because really do some research and see, like, is that the world you really want to be in? And I say that as a venture capitalist.
And since I mentioned Bumble, I just have to give out a shout out to our new cover, which is
Whitney.
Wolfhard.
Yeah,
So-
she's the new cover in an age where, no shade to anyone who works at Forbes, but Forbes had this 100 list of innovative CEOs, and one was a woman in the photo, and I don't know what she looks like because her photo wasn't even involved in the article. And then next door, and this is my opinion, this is not Stephanie's opinion, I'm speaking for myself. Next door you have Fast Company, which just put their umpteenth woman on the cover, and it's Whitney from Bumble. And you know, you can choose to do that if you have your eyes open.
I'm just going to have Arlen speak on my behalf from now on. I think we have time for one more question. Do we have anybody out there who wants to ask a question right over here?
And we should mention that in a few minutes, as we're getting the mic out, we're going to be judging a pitch competition along with Amy from the Riveter. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Just a few minutes, so stick around after.
Hi. So you're basically my hero, and I said that numerous times on Twitter. Hi.
Thank you.
My name is Natalie. I'm a UX UI designer. I work for myself, and I just want to know, you said you were homeless and you were on food stamps, so I'm sure you went through a lot of no's and a lot of setbacks, and like, we're all human. We also have negative self-talk. What was it that motivated you and pushed you forward and keep going through those really hard and bad times?
Yeah, it absolutely happened more times than not.
Yeah.
I was sad more times than I was happy during that time. Today it happens. Happens all the time. We get calls where we think we're going to have $100,000 in our bank account and it's not there. We think we're going to have $10 million wired and it's not there. It's just erased. So it happens all the time, and then just life. The thing that kept me going early on and still does is, and I'm not being facetious, it's music. So music kept me going. Like when you have music and then, like, so audio in general, I would listen to Oprah stuff over and over and over because she would catch me at the right time. Yes, exactly. Listen to Oprah. Like I say, let Oprah be your mentor by virtually. Let her do that. For real, Will Smith. You know, you can't listen to Will Smith and not be inspired. Richard Branson has always been that for me as well. But music is... It's probably scientifically proven, I'm sure, that it lifts your spirits in certain ways. And I'm telling you, when Cardi B, when that album first came out and Christy, my business partner, introduced me to it, I listened to Get Up 10 like 50 times. And I was on a plane, and when I landed, I swear to you, I was walking through that airport like, who? You gonna run up on who and do
Somebody
what?
try me today.
I was so hyped. But it's music, and I'll tell you this, I haven't really said this before, I don't think, like publicly, but during the fundraising, even when I was like sleeping on the floor of the airport, I would listen, I don't know why, but I would listen to the song by Walk the Line called Get Up or Shut Up and Dance. And I would listen to it, and it was like my motivating music to get me ready to go and speak to, I guess, like, you know, white male venture capitalists. I was like getting into the groove. And so that was that. And then there's Rihanna and Nicki Minaj have a song called Fly. I Came to Fly. Listen to that. It gets you. It takes you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, I have a request for Arlen, which is to tweet out your playlist so that we can all have like our own Arlen Hamilton Get Sites mix.
Yes. All right, done.
Arlen, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. This has been a great talk, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
How many of you use Reddit? Awesome. Awesome. For those of you who don't, think of it as the world's largest network of communities. And I'm excited to talk to you about how we use technology to enable scaling human interaction. We often call Reddit the most human company on earth, which is like a really funny thing to say about a company that's based in San Francisco that's a tech company. But that is how we think of ourselves. And we think about building at all times in three levels. Reddit Inc., the platform, our communities, which is really unique to us, and our business on top of that. So I'm excited to talk about how community helps us scale. Most of you probably recognize this problem, which is that communities are really eroded. In fact, they've disappeared. Once upon a time, your community was your local town. It was church, it was temple, it was your union, it was your community center. And those institutions have weakened and in some cases are really tarnished. And what that means is that places that were sort of your moral compass, part of your identity, a guide for you, a sense of belonging have disappeared. And people actually, they move around a lot more. So even having that in a physical, local location isn't helpful to the way that people live today. And in general, there's a trend that, and this is reinforced, I think, by social media, of maybe not spending as much time on the we and more on the me, which is very different than thinking with a community mindset. But the reality is, and we see this on Reddit, communities are actually thriving. And we see the birth, the growth, and the influence that communities have on culture every day. I grew up in Syosset, Long Island. I don't know if anyone else is like Bridge and Tunnel right here. And I was, it was pre-internet, pre-Reddit, and I was really into like Mancunian rock and cameras. And there was no one to talk to about either of those things. But if I grew up today, I could spend time on the internet and specifically on Reddit and probably find people who share those passions and interests. And that's pretty amazing. That would have given me a sense of belonging in the world, not feeling like a geek on Long Island. And we see communities thrive all the time. Sometimes they are a response to like zeitgeist, like Game of Thrones and pop culture and Fortnite. And sometimes, and this is like really magical, they reflect like a change in values little by little that happen over time. You see this where, there's the movement, you've heard of the FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early. These are people who are incredibly passionate about radically early retirement, not having to earn money, to being forced to earn money to live day to day, or who don't want to have to bother earning money because they've saved enough and are going to live pretty frugal lives for the rest of their lives, but be independent. There are over 1 million people on Reddit who are spending their time helping each other live this lifestyle. And that's something that a couple of years ago didn't exist. It just kind of came out of the ether. And it's individuals who found each other, who are helping each other accomplish something that they have a shared belief and value in. And that's what's so powerful about community. So Reddit is the largest network of communities, and our mission is to bring community and belonging to the world. And that's a really tall order because when you think about community, it's very different in the sense that it's infused with feeling, right? We have over 100,000 active communities. And we often say that the difference between a group and a community is the difference between a house and a home. When you think about your home, in your home, it reflects your personal beliefs, your passions, your identity. It has a sense of warmth and belonging to it. And so when we talk about community, we talk about building products in a business that allows us to scale that feeling, that belonging, that set of values, more than just the congregation of people in that exchange. One of the things that's really unique about Reddit is that we have a lot of words, and that probably defies logic in a world where there's an explosion. You've seen the Mary Meeker slide with like the explosion of photos and video, and no one's going to talk anymore. And it's on Reddit, we don't see that. We see 50,000 words a minute. And the reason why is because when you're talking about complex things or very profound things like veracity of news, like being indebted, over $100,000, like how do you get out of debt? Like, honestly, dealing with my mother-in-law who just got diagnosed with a brain tumor. I mean, how do you have those conversations in photos? You have to have words. And so we see that on Reddit. You know, we're actually an older company. We've been around for 14 years. And one of the things that I think really stands out is how we build product. We have a conversation, an active conversation with our community. We share with them feature sets, we listen to them, and we incorporate it. And we usually seed new products with communities, and they're the ones who embrace it and advocate for other communities to use it. And you know, we take a mindset which might be very unusual from a product standpoint, which is we don't presume that our users, to know what our users will do with the feature set that we give them. We assume that they're more creative and more interesting and smarter than we are, and that they will take something basic that we give them and make something amazing. And you see this happen. You know, 2 weeks ago we did a streaming test, and there are just petitions and petitions right now on Reddit to bring that feature back because communities got so excited about how they could use that to help advance their objectives. And that's really similar to how we handle policy and rules. We have an active dialogue with the community to explain why there's this rule, what does it mean, and what do we expect in terms of help enforcing it. So community really is the heart of Reddit. It's our lifeblood, and it's a really different way of looking at the world and our platform. At the base is always the Reddit Inc., the platform. It's where we build most of our technology. We set universal rules so that there's health and safety for the entire platform and community. We build tools that we use for moderation. We build tools for our human moderators in our communities to use to moderate. And we build tools so that communities can complete and achieve the objectives that they have. The thing that sets us apart is that middle layer, which is community. And every community on Reddit has somewhere between 5 and 50 moderators, human moderators who use our tools to set rules and enforce rules within the community. And if you think about the structure, we're a little bit like a democracy where there's a loose federal government that has some universal rules that we reinforce, and then each of the communities are like states, and the states get to have their own rules. And we think that this scales much better than Reddit Inc. trying to apply rules and values to everyone. The reason why is because it makes communities equally responsible in protecting the health and safety of Reddit overall. So they share that burden, and what they get from that is that they get the ability to have nuance. So they get to set rules that work for them and their community versus Reddit Inc. paternalistically saying, these are the rules and we enforce them globally and one size fits all. So it allows that kind of variation similar to, you know, how our democracy works. There are other things that are really powerful in communities. Another is the fact that when you post, you have to post into a community. So the first judge are your peers. And I'll give you an example of this. When one of my first posts was into skincare addiction, and I had hyperpigmentation on my hand. I was like, what is going on here? So I took a photo and I uploaded it, and I was like, help, what is this? And they actually rejected my post. It was kind of interesting. They basically said, you know, it sounds like you're asking a medical question, and we don't do that here. We don't feel qualified to answer a medical question. You should go to a medical subreddit. And while that was shocking, it made a lot of sense to me. And it just gave me a sense of, okay, this community has a very specific objective. They know what the boundaries of what they're about, and everything else should go somewhere else. And I thought that was really an incredible way to experience what it's like to be in communities and what these communities are about. We have an upvote and a downvote system. One thing I'll say is that I'm surprised more people don't have downvotes. Downvotes are incredibly important. It lets people judge a piece of content based on, hey, this violates my values, this violates our rules, this just isn't good. It's a really important signal. It's not the same as only having hearts or thumbs up that go up. And the final one that we have is we have a concept in the communities called karma. And karma is like, remember clout, like your reputation score on Reddit. It's a sign of your standing, and it accumulates over time. And it's a signal to other users of, how much what your standing is and how much to take weight in what you do. Those are incredibly powerful signals that we think mimic real life, right? In real life, when you have accumulated reputation, that means something. And similarly, we want that on Reddit. The final piece is our business. And our business is primarily advertising today, and it also requires moderation and rules and governance, right? Advertisers, they want control over where their ads run. They want to target. They want to be able to sometimes have two-way conversations, sometimes not. So all of those things are also part of how we scale. So community is really the heart of how we scale. In fact, we're over 330 million users today. That was our last public number from a while ago. And we're 14 years old. We have a tonnage of engagement. And if you know Reddit, Reddit's had its ups and downs. There's a moment where Reddit shrunk to, I think, under 50 employees. But yet we grew. And that is what's so fascinating, is we always say, and yet we grew. Because the way that we interact with the community and have shared responsibility, the way we empower them and build product, is actually how Reddit kept growing, despite the fact that the company Reddit may not have added more to the tool set during periods of time in its 14-year growth. It just kept on going. And now we have communities that cover every topic on the planet, from Fortnite to frugal travel to my r/Polaroids group to shopping to vacuums, everything. And that is the heart of how we've scaled, and we believe we'll be able to scale and scale in a way that maintains those human interactions, supports those values, and supports a healthy and safe community. So we often say the only thing that really scales with users is users. Think about the task at hand. It's really about scaling values. Our communities value creativity, altruism. They value control over their data so that they can have privacy, so that they can talk about medical conditions and get support, but not with their persona. What we do is we empower them to do these things with the tools that we give them and let them do the hard work in some ways. We partner with them, and we always say, let humans do the hard work, let us give them technology to make it easier. And we focus on the collective just as much as we focus on the individual. So, the one thing I'll say is we are building an ad business, and we think about it as a way to elevate advertisers' relationships with communities and users. And advertisers know today that there is a real trust crisis, and they know that communities matter to individuals, that they influence their customers, that those communities influence other communities, and that if you have a deep relationship that's based on trust with users, that you can actually have a higher LTV and a longer-term dialogue with them. We believe that there's a discipline around community marketing that marketers should add to their tool set that rests on all of these principles of community, and that ultimately brands will be judged the same way users on Reddit are, which is brand karma, or their karma and reputation on the platform. So I'll end by saying that communities are really built on values and that feeling of belonging. Reddit as a company is the same. We mirror that, and we think about how to scale those interactions, those values, and that feeling every day. And part of that is about listening to each other, learning from each other, and ultimately really focusing on contribution as the ultimate currency. Not followership, not popularity, but contribution to advancing the objectives of the community. And I'll leave you with one thought, which is I think right now there's a lot of pessimism, and understandably so, about platforms and the internet. These are tough problems that we're dealing with, and how to have healthy and safe environments. And what I'd say is, after working at Reddit for some time, that I'm truly more optimistic about the future of the internet than I've ever been. So, thank you.
have too.
Yep.
Totally. Anything secret? They have how many minutes to pitch?
So this is how the competition works. The judges will come out. Each of the people that are pitching get 3 minutes on the clock to pitch. They've all been informed that they have only 3 minutes. When the 3 minutes is up, there will be a gong sound that will happen, which means that their time is up. Once everyone has gone through with their pitching, then the judges will
have some Q&A. We'll ask a couple questions. The judges will then take their leave. We will hear from a speaker that many of you are probably here to see. She's a rather famous, amazing feminist, Gloria Steinem. And then the judges will come back
with their big decision to
and
see
give
who
somebody
won.
a
giant check.
Woo! Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you who the judges are, and then I'd like to do a little slow clap to welcome them all to the stage, okay? So, one of the judges you know, she's near and dear to our heart. She is the reason we're here. She's the founder of Lesbians Who Tech, Leanne Pittsford.
Welcome out, Leanne.
Leanne. Wait, go back. You're not supposed to.
She's coming.
You got to
now.
listen to the instructions.
You know, it's hard to follow all the rules.
Go back.
What just happened?
I want a slow clap.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Very
did
good. Got it.
Everyone wants to
I have a lot of trust here.
Go ahead.
Clearly.
Let's start it again.
Okay, remember, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to tell you their names. I didn't say clap. I'm going to tell you their names, and then we're going to slow clap them up.
Great.
Okay. The founder of Lesbians Who Tech, Leanne Pittsford. Arlen Hamilton, the founder of Backstage Capital. Stephanie Mehta, editor-in-chief of Fast Company. And Amy Nelson, the CEO and founder of The Riveter. Please slow clap. Welcome this amazing group of judges.
Come out.
Woo!
Hello. Have a seat. Judges, are you ready? You feel good? You feel prepared to judge?
You ready? Okay.
When are we not judging? Is more of the question.
All right, let's find our first pitcher.
Come. Tell me your name. Jess. Okay, great. All right, coming to the stage first is Jess, from the founder of Able. Here you go.
Thank you. My name is Jess, and I'd like to kick this off with a question for the audience and the judges. This might take some reflection. Who here loves student loans? Raise of hands. No. If you're thinking, not me, you're joined by 44 million other borrowers in the United States as of 2019. Do I have my slides? Cool. With a total of $1.5 trillion in student loan debt as of today. That's billions of dollars more than credit card loans, and it sucks. And that number is only growing. The student loan crisis is one of the most critical issues of our generation. The average student loan number is $40,000, and for us, the queer community, that's actually $16,000 higher due to social mobility issues and resourcing problems. I was surprised to learn that monthly payments, most borrowers' monthly payments, don't actually go towards their principal, it goes towards interest. And that's the core of this problem, is that accumulated interest is preventing people from paying their debt. That's why 46% of borrowers actually are growing their loans year over year versus reducing them. We need a solution to this problem, and we need a better way to manage your student loan debt. We think that solution is Able. Able is a financial wellness platform that effectively leverages everyday spend to diminish and even eliminate interest ahead of due dates. It does this a little bit like, if you guys are familiar with Acorns, it's a bit like Acorns but for debt. It takes a percentage roundup and then applies that roundup directly to your student loan debt every month, basically stopping the bleeding and preventing interest from accumulating over time. Effectively, Able splits out huge, stressful loan debt numbers into incremental and more manageable portions over the course of a month. So if anyone has a daily coffee habit, 10% on that daily coffee habit is going towards your student loan debt, which is a little bit more healthier. So this sounds pretty great. How does it work? Effectively, oh, this is much better. effectively. On the back end, users connect their loans and bank accounts to Able. Able then takes a percentage roundup, charges the user, and then applies that to their student loans. Other features include community engagement, right? Competitions, recognition, refinancing programs, and all of this leans into increased engagement where hopefully users will then think about, okay, what other loans can I take out? What other financial partners should I be connecting with? A little bit like Credit Karma, and that's effectively the business model of Able. So to close out, because I know I only have 3 minutes, the idea of Able was built on the fact that we believe that people will, manage their own wellness if you give them the right tools. Today, banks, lenders, and other financial tech apps aren't doing this. The entire ethos around student loans is super negative. It sucks, it's stressful, and it's terrible for your mental health. Able aims to be different by allowing users to empower their future financial wellness with their everyday spending. Thank you very much.
Well done. All right. Up next, we have Suma Reddy, who is the co-founder and COO of Farm Shelf.
So hi everyone, my name is Suma Reddy. I'm the co-founder and COO of Farm Shelf. And I've dedicated my career to impact-driven entrepreneurship, starting in the Peace Corps in Mali, and then hopping over to India where I worked for a successful microfinance company, and then years focused on renewable energy solutions. But today, I want to talk about something different: food. Our food system is broken. And growing food is hard. It takes time, it takes space, and it takes expertise. And behind that is a crazy, complicated, convoluted supply chain where we truck our food thousands of miles to get from farm to table. And that means waste, wasted nutrients, wasted produce, and that means a less healthy you and a less healthy planet. So our solution is bringing the farm to you. Farm shelf systems grow at 2 to 4 times faster rates and with 90% less water than traditional agriculture. It's powered by tech. Our proprietary hardware includes custom grow LEDs and auto-dosing nutrient systems and a predictive platform that's taking thousands of data points to optimize plant health, yield, and quality. And ultimately, we're enabling you and the customer to grow in a beautiful and meaningful and engaging way. And customers are frankly eating it up. These include celebrity chefs like Jose Andres and Marcus Samuelsson, schools like NYU, and hotels like Hilton and Marriott. And we make money through these customers by selling the hardware or leasing it and offering a monthly subscription. So plant pods, nutrients, and access to our app. And if you just take 2 of our customers, Aramark and Compass Group, 2 of the largest food service corporations in the world that run cafeterias globally, our addressable US market size is over $1.3 billion. So where are we today? We've been able to raise over $6 million from investors like the CEO of Albertsons and Chef Jose Andres. We've launched a product and we have 80 farms in the field, and we want to grow that to 1,000 by next year and hopefully raise a Series A. And ultimately, we want you to be able to grow food where you are, where you eat, where you work, and where you live. Our vision is to become the largest farm in the world by providing the Lego blocks to grow food anywhere. And we're just getting started. Thank you.
I like people who follow the time. So far, first 2 people, very well done. No pressure. Coming up next, we have Jasmine Shells, who is the co-founder and CEO of 5 to 9.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jasmine, the co-founder and CEO of 5 to 9. And we are helping companies to manage and measure the ROI behind their employee programming and events. So we found that actually less than 10% of companies understand the ROI behind their employee programs. And through a grant that we got from the National Science Foundation, we found that over 100 plus HR executives actually reported having using 5 or more tools in order to manage this process. And because of that, it was very hard for them to actually see how they were capturing the data. So this is why it actually makes it managing these programs so hard. So our platform essentially streamlines that entire process to make it very easy to manage on the front end, but then we collect very robust data and metrics on the back end. So how does it work? First, we have a hub where organizers, like employee resource group leaders, for example, they upload all of their upcoming events and initiatives, and our program automates the rest. Employees have accounts where they actually sign up for these programs. And then from there, we're able to track the engagement data where we aggregate and anonymize all feedback and insights into the dashboard so that organizers can better invest in these programs and that management can build a business case for investing more in them. And lastly, now management, they have a great understanding of what's working for their employees and what's not. Our whole goal is to help companies to continue to invest in these programs that mean a lot for their employees. And when it comes to our attraction, we were able to bring on customers after we launched in Q4 of 18, which has brought us almost $500,000 in revenue. And with our late stage pipeline, we'll be hitting $1 million in ARR by end of year. And we've had 100% customer retention to date, which we're really proud of. Thanks, y'all. What makes 5 to 9 unique is on one side we have the event management, but then on the other side we also have the data and analytics, and putting all that together provides us a full suite for our customers. And we charge an annual licensing fee in a market that's $74 billion, growing 13% year over year. And our team gets it. I personally led employee resource groups at Ernst & Young before I went out on this journey, and I knew how hard it was. EY, woo-woo. And we have our team members who have backgrounds in IO Psych and have built out HR tech platforms that have been backed by Google Ventures prior. And we also have amazing investors like Morgan Stanley and Keynotes Capital, and we just closed our seed round. Y'all are so supportive. So how can you guys help? We really would love to talk to different HR and diversity leaders or even employee resource group leaders. I know you guys are out there to get your feedback on our products. So thank you so much.
All right. Coming up next, we have Chastity Wright, who is the co-founder and CTO of Infiltron Software Suite. And the clicker.
Hello, judges. Hello, Lesbians Who Tech. So Infiltron, software and app, I want to start out by saying you can't allow anyone to fight for you. I believe Michelle Obama said that. Whether that's Facebook or the government. So two-factor authentication sucks. It's been hacked several times. And at the basis of it, we are now introducing smart cities, smart ecosystems, your office, your home, and your commute. Well, with this technology, we're finding gender and racial biasness built into it. Even to the point where the people who built it weren't even concerned with their mothers, their daughters, or even their wives. My team is comprised of 2 Air Force veterans and Georgia Tech graduates who have expertise in AI, cybersecurity, business, as well as IoT. Why Infiltron? We are the first minority-owned multi-factor authentication solution. We also are the first to even acknowledge building into our solution equality. Mind you, thank you. Mind you, again, the technology that is in existence right now was not including any of us in this room. How do we deliver? Just click through it. So with the multi-factor authentication, again, we're not using anything that's been compromised. We're offering a minimum of 3 factors. And you can also, in combination with those 3 factors that we give you, add your biometrics. And in real time, due to the 5G technology that's being rolled out in these smart ecosystems, your office, your home, and your city, we are also bringing to you real-time intrusion detection. Meaning, with 5G being consistently connectivity, we'll let you know when somebody's trying to hack your shit. And we also have built in something, since we are offering to, in combination for the biometric portion, deep fakes. We also found here in recent research that our transgender community is more acutely affected by this. So we're right now in production and testing. I ran out of time. But you get it. We need it.
Thank you. All right, coming up next, our final contestant, Melissa Munnerlin, who is the co-founder of Cherry Pick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa. I'm the co-founder and COO of Cherry Pick. At Cherry Pick, we're building predictive intelligence for product development. Imagine a world where you knew how successful your brand or product would be before you ever launch. Pretty amazing, right? Well, today, this is how beauty products are made. Product developers have to fill out super complex forms with hundreds of decisions for every single product. These forms are completed super manually, based with very little information and always in a rush. Literally, this is a 6-line email that was used to then create a $17 million product roadmap. Minimal information is being used to make massive, massive bets. As a result, beauty brands are spending billions of dollars on developing products, yet 80% of those products fail, which is a result of a lack of demand and leads to a lot of wasted product. So why is that? It's because everyone's using low-dimensional data to make highly dimensional questions. So data like lagged, incomplete sales data, biased survey data, and good old-fashioned intuition is being used to answer things like, what is the best ingredient to put in this moisturizer for my specific audience in the springtime? Introducing Cherry Pick's demand-driven decision-making for any audience. Now you can use predictive intelligence to ensure that you're making products that your consumer actually wants. This is made possible by 3 unique and proprietary pieces of technology. So real-time demand tracking, which uses natural language processing, SKU-level product recognition in images and videos across social, and audience personalization. A lot of sophisticated, sexy tech that enables product developers to make decisions at scale that are completely data and demand-driven. So take this example. This is a product that was developed purely on Cherry Pick data. Our client was building a huge brand for a major influencer. They had no idea what products to produce. And all of that lovely numbers on the side are demand data personalized for her audience to create that product on the left. So back to that $17 million roadmap I was talking about, Cherry Pick identified over $4 million of risk and almost $6 million of product opportunities that they were missing out on. This is the future of product development, measuring products before they launch. Their SVP calls this the closest thing to a social crystal ball that they've ever seen. Thank you so much.
All right, great job. We're going to welcome back all of the pitchers. All right, so we have one microphone 5 of you. The judges will ask some questions, and you guys pass the mic back and forth. All right.
Can we actually get you to just a little,
a
little
like a
curve so we can see you,
semi-cir-
so we can
like
see you?
like this,
Yeah,
like
little
yeah,
you.
yeah.
There you go.
Everybody,
We wanna
sta-
see you. We wanna
okay.
see you.
There we
Yeah.
go. Good job. Go ahead, judges.
I'll go first. This is a question for everyone. Some of you covered this, some of you didn't. Can you just tell me the number of users and or the number of clients that you have on the product, just kind of going down?
So Abel is still in the concept stage. This is actually its first pitch, so 0, but maybe that will change after today. Yeah.
So we have 80 units in the field as of now. By the end of the year, we want to have 200, and then those are all closed, and the pipeline is solid for the year.
While I have you, what's the price point?
So we sell our hardware for $82.50, and the subscription is about $125.
What's
Per
up?
year?
A monthly subscription, $125
$125 per month.
per month. Yeah,
Got it.
for the plant pods.
Copy.
Yeah, so for 5 to 9, we have 11 customers, and by end of year, we'll be bringing on another 5 to 7.
So currently we have smart city projects, and we also are speaking with Senator Cory Booker around the Accountability Act, the algorithm, to create a standard solution around the equality. And we also are speaking with Intel. So those are some of the interests that we have right now.
Cherry Pick has 6 clients to date, including 2 beauty brands that we've developed from scratch.
Can you talk about the price point as well, or the business model?
Yeah, our business model is an annual SaaS with revenue share with the brands that we create.
For Suma, can you talk a little bit about the power requirements of the unit and whether or not a urban farm is more sustainable than a comparable footprint in a traditional agriculture setting?
Sure. Really awesome question, very heavy question.
You're hired.
Yes. So this is something we think about a lot. In terms of the power draw, it's like a refrigerator. LEDs do draw power. So when we say 90% less water, 2 to 3 times faster growth rates, the offset is that it does draw power. In terms of sustainability, we want to do the data analysis on this. What we would say is that since we're cutting out cold storage, since we're cutting out supply chain of the food and we're growing on site, our thesis is that absolutely will reduce waste, and absolutely there'll be increases in nutrition, and we will do the data around sort of carbon footprint when we get there.
And I think most of your customers today are corporations or groceries. Are you going to go after individual consumers? Can you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's the dream. So our model is based on proving the technology, proving the business with these B2B customers. So flavor validation through these chefs like Jose Andres, Marcus Samuelson, and then scalability validation with large corporates. Once we can perfect technology, service, make some money, get the Series A, then we can build a product for consumers.
I have a question for the student loan company. What's the average monthly student loan on that $40,000 average total? Like, what's the payment amount?
About $300 a month.
300. And so what amount of that do you expect to be rounded up in any given, like when you've looked at your market or potential customers, how much of that are they cutting into?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, most people, when they're making monthly payments, are actually paying on interest and not even touching the principal. We expect, based on how we've modeled it out, at least half to be diminished. One of the things I didn't get a chance to talk about is the different categories. So you talk about restaurants, you might see, $50 to $100 a month. You talk about apparel, you're seeing a lot larger amounts in terms of roundups going towards your interest. So, yeah.
I have a question for 5 to 9. Can you talk a little bit about how you sort of launch the product within the company? I know there's a lot of structural things that might happen around that. Second question, how many employees out of the clients you have, I'm guessing it's a lot of surveys and questions, what percentage of them are actually engaging?
Yeah, great question. So when we think about onboarding our customers, definitely for the enterprise ones, we start off with the SMB product and then went up market. But we usually launch with a specific group. So a lot of times it is with the employee resource group leaders initially. And then since our platform can measure all programs, we then expand out to like L&D, volunteerism, etc. When we actually look at feedback, which is very important to our product, and I think that is something that sets us apart from other things, the current response rate average for survey products is 30%, and 5 Sign right now we're getting a 68% response rate.
Thank y'all. For the security company, what will be the business model once you've gone through the R&D phase?
So we have an in-app purchase for the multi-factor authentication, and we have business licensing because the actual encryption and the IoT solution will be able to integrate into any business system. So, for example, a lot of the smart cities have law enforcement projects. Around the IoT sensors, they will have facial recognition. They are using that to get to crime scenes faster. So that's why we're kind of aiming at those. But also in a smart office setting, you still want to have some level of security because you don't know what Rachel's bringing into the office from her home or through the city. So
Rachel,
why you got to pick on Rachel?
All right.
So yeah.
I have a question for Jess. So your monetization model is referral fees from financial partners. So how will you onboard financial partners?
Yeah, so our founding team has connections with financial partners like Robinhood, Edward Jones, et cetera. So I think starting there, leveraging our business school community, Stanford GSB, and sort of leaning into those that are currently working there and starting those relationships. We think actually the value prop for financial partners is quite attractive. What we would have is effectively a young, urban, well-to-do group of people who are indicating and signaling through their download of the app that they are willing to repay, and we think that that would be quite attractive to lenders.
I have a question for Cherry Pick. Out of how much are people spending right now just in beauty for predictive analytics?
They're spending a couple of $100 million.
Have you guys looked at what your next, beauty is obviously a great market to start with this because there's so much work done on the front end before people launch, but what are some of the other markets you're considering next?
Yeah, definitely the next market would be health and wellness, which is super interesting how that market kind of blends with beauty actually, and then food would be after that.
I think we have time for one more.
I have a question for 5 to 9. So how is your platform different from something like Eventbrite? I know Eventbrite is outward facing, but could Eventbrite just do this internally for HR companies?
Absolutely, great question. So organizations or companies like Eventbrite that do a lot of events from the usage analytics side, 5 Sign, we don't only look at usage analytics, we think that's important, but we also want to understand the employee sentiment side. Employee engagement programs are meant to attract and retain, and you can't get that in just usage. So we want to look at retention and promotion over time and how folks who are in those programs stay longer or get promoted more often. So that's what really sets 5 to 9 apart, is we want to really understand, are these employee engagement programs engaging?
Can we get a round of applause for all the pitch competition? So we're going to take a little group photo. So the judges.
All about it.
Okay, cappuccino or something like that.
Can we get another slow clap just for some ambiance of the photo? Let's look for the We look good? You got us? You got us? Rachel, where are you at? Rachel?
Look over there. Right there.
Rachel. Paging Rachel.
Stop trying to bring stuff inside that you shouldn't. Yeah? Can we get a little hands in?
Oh, okay.
You could be on the next poster, I'm just saying.
Love a hands.
1, 2, 3, squad! 1, 2, 3, squad! Thank you, everybody. So we're gonna...
Goodness. Yeah, now we do. That was amazing. Great video, Lesbians Who Tech. All right, y'all, how you doing? Okay, you sound great, but you're not doing as well as I am because I have the honor and the pleasure of talking with my friend and my hero and my mentor, Gloria Steinem.
I have the honor of talking with the most fan-fucking-tastic organizer.
I don't have to do any kind of intro. That video was amazing. Gloria's work is legendary, and you as a person are absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. So I just want to dive in. I think what we're going to do this morning is do a mix of silly questions and serious questions, and I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to do which one. Okay, so let's get it started. So here's my question. We were up here yesterday talking about supermajority and trying to build a new home for women to be active and powerful in politics. And of course, I was sitting up here and I felt your spirit. And I felt your spirit because one of the things that I take from you, and I take it with me always, is when you tell us that we should gather and gather often. And so we're here and we're gathered. We're here to build with each other, to connect, and ultimately, right, to break isolation and hopefully build some power. Y'all want to build some power? So I was sitting up here yesterday with Cecile and Catherine, and I was thinking to myself, what would Gloria say about the state of the women's movement today? What do you think? You've been in it for so long.
Just
where
a little thing like that? I mean, it's like saying
Just
describe the universe and give two
just
examples.
Just a small question.
Well, one of the good things about being old is that you remember when it was worse. Okay, so I think part of the role of us golden oldies here is to provide that kind of perspective. And the role of you who are younger is to be mad as hell, you know, because it totally deserves being mad as hell.
Yeah.
But I do think in general what's happened is that all of the issues, realities, stories, you know, I mean, okay, Lesbians Who Tech, I mean, this sign would not have been out on the street when we started. Neither word would have been out on the street.
Yeah.
And what was maybe 20% or 30% of the country for a long time is now the majority of the country. Really, if you look at the public opinion polls, all the big social justice movements, all of them, now have majority support.
That's right.
That's the good news. The bad news is that it's always most dangerous after a victory. And the third of the country that is still attached to the old hierarchies and feels deprived of something based on the old hierarchies is scared and mad because they know now they're in the minority. And they have elected this idiot we have in the White House. Not the majority of us, you know, he lost by 6 million votes. But, you know, I think that is where we are. And though it is a great victory that we now have the majority opinion, nowhere is it written that the minority won't win. I mean, Hitler was elected too, you know, I just want to say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything depends on us energizing and organizing ourselves as the majority. And sometimes I worry about that because I think as women, especially if you put me in a room with 500 people ready to go over there and 100 people who were saying, no, I don't think so, I would probably try to convince the 100. And I think, never mind, forget the 100, just make sure we organize the others, the majority.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of being the majority, we are entering into an election year. Anybody watch the debates last night? Anybody got favorites? Okay, cool. I'm glad you didn't tell me who it was. You know, sometimes I feel really hopeful, and sometimes I feel panicked, I'll be honest. And so this morning I was thinking, what do you think about this administration? And when I'm asking you what you think, I'm asking you specifically, do you think Trump is an idiot, or do you think he's an evil genius?
No, I think he's an idiot, but I think... I mean, we in New York know he's an idiot, okay? I mean, because he was never successful in business. He just, even if he had invested what he inherited, he would be richer than he is now. He is an idiot, okay? And the key to knowing everything he's going to do is that he has narcissistic personality disorder. It's like thousands of psychologists have told us, right? So what that means is that he will react with hostility to the smallest criticism, and he will slavishly follow any praise, even if it comes from Saudi Arabia, from Russia. Once you get onto that, you know, he's completely understandable. But he is very dangerous because he is fervently supported by a third of the country, some of whom are surprising, like evangelicals. Okay, does he behave like an evangelical? No, I don't think so. But they are so obsessed with abortion as an issue because because every hierarchy starts with controlling reproduction, hello, and we have the one thing they don't have, which is wombs. And so it means controlling folks who have wombs, right? And that, you know, is so fundamental and so basic that, you know, that we are in danger because of his fervent support, not because he is smart. And the other thing that worries me is that a single focus beats a multiple focus. Yep. And he, you know, he has Twitter-length thoughts, so it's basically I'm going to make a button that says, "Twat is the past tense of Twitter, you idiot." You are so over.
I wasn't ready for that one.
So
but I want that button.
So, you know, so we have to learn to speak political poetry, not a novel.
So he's a dangerous idiot.
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful. Let me just go on this for a little bit because I'm obsessed with politics. We've talked about this many times together. And you said it's important for us to have not just a singular focus, but the ability to pay attention to many things at one time. With this particular administration and with this beautiful group of people, what do you think that we should be paying attention to as it relates to 2020? And let me give some context for my question. You know, every single time I turn on the news, somebody's mocking the president. And it's easy to mock him because you're right, he's not that bright. But beyond not being that bright, I think it makes people not take him seriously and not take seriously the impacts of what might happen if he is re-elected or steals the election so that he remains in power. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective. What do we need to be paying attention to? Should we be paying attention to his Twitter rants? Or should we be paying attention to other things? Or should we be paying attention to all of them?
Well, I don't want to put out too many shoulds because I have faith in everybody's smarts, you know, about you know.
Except Donald Trump.
But I think in a general way, we need to spend less time looking up at him or whoever up is and more time looking at each other. because we do get a case of the shoulds.
Uh-huh.
You know, what should I do? As opposed to saying, I'm just going to do everything I can. I'm going to organize my neighbors. I'm going to, you know, whatever it is, what you are doing, which is so great. Right. If we wait to be told what to do, that is a problem. We have to do with energy and fun and outrage and anger and having a good time and absolutely every day do everything we can.
Told y'all. Okay, heels or flats?
Well, I think in between, you know, I started to wear cowboy boots at a certain point. I discovered I suddenly had no more skirts left in my closet. I don't know why. So if I wore flats, I'd have to shorten all my pants.
What's your favorite color?
Oh.
Today.
Yeah, I guess purple, because
it's a very royal
that means a lot. I mean, it's the rarest color in nature, and which is why Alice Walker. Yeah, I would say.
No, tell the story. We're getting into it.
What?
You were like, that's why Alice Walker.
Well, no, I mean, it's why she chose the color purple, you know, as her title, because it is a miracle. It is the rarest color in nature.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Just making sure you were with me here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? And what's the best piece of advice you've ever given?
You ask such hard questions.
Sorry. I mean, these are things I want to know.
I guess the best piece of advice I've ever received is to listen to the true self in here, you know? I mean, each of us arrives in this world as a unique person, infant, you know, that is a combination of heredity and environment that could never have happened before and could never happen again. And yet we're told, especially the more uniform the society or the more hierarchical the society, the more we are told to behave like somebody else. So I know it, I don't know how to make it sound not woo-woo or something, but I think listening to the inner voice, you know, what is it that when you're doing it, you forget what time it is? That tells you what you love, right? What is it? I mean, I want you all to get very well paid, but what is it would you do even if you didn't get paid? You know, what do you really, really care about? And I think maybe especially for folks who are living as women in this world, that's important because there's so many shoulds put on us that to remember to listen to this voice is crucial.
And what's the best piece of advice you've ever given to someone else?
Well, I guess that's it. Don't listen to me, listen to yourself. Right.
So I got the amazing opportunity to see the play about your life called Gloria. Anybody see it? It's amazing. And one of the things I found a lot of things powerful about it. But one of the things that I really loved was even how in the theater itself, it's really interactive. You're really in your life, but you were there, but you weren't there. It was like somebody was playing you, but she was doing an excellent job. So one of the things that stood out to me, and one of the things you and I have connected on, has been your commitment to Black liberation And this comes, yes. And this really comes forward in the play, but it also comes forward through your writings and through your speaking and through the organizing that you've done. There are iconic pictures of you that are symbols, really, of the work that you have done for many, many years to ensure that nobody gets left behind, but you have been especially tuned in and plugged in to the Black liberation movement. So I want to ask you about that, and I want to ask you in this context. 53% of white women who voted in the last election voted for fear. So talk to us about your journey to support Black liberation and the liberation of all of us, and what that looks like, what it needs to look like, what it could. Let's say that, because you don't do the telling people what to do. So what could a deep commitment to the liberation of all of us look like in 2020, and how did you get there?
Well, how I got there, I don't know. I mean, I grew up with parents who had a tiny little summer resort, and the bands came through, and of course there were black bands and white bands, and it always seemed to me that and then they were separate, right? It always seemed to me as a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old that the black bands were nicer to me as a child. I don't know, right? But anyway, that was my, right? And then I lived in India for 2 years because I escaped to India because I was engaged, I was trying not to get married. So after college, I went. And when I came home, I realized how segregated this society is, because I suddenly looked around, where I was living and thought, I could go snowblind here. There's nothing but white people here. So I got mad on my own behalf, I would say. How dare people tell me who my friends are? Yeah. And so, it just, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that we are right now in a time of, I'll get to the women voting in a minute, but we're in a time of fear from that third of the country, because they can see that in about 20 minutes it's not going to be a majority white country anymore. And so the people who still are operating in this racist way feel, endangered, and that's, I think, a large part of the backlash. When it comes to the 53% of white married women who voted for Trump, I think, I'm not trying to oversimplify because there were a lot of different reasons, abortion and so on, but because they were mostly not college educated and married, it means they were dependent on the incomes and the social identities of their husbands. So they were voting their husband's interest. And in this regard, I always think of what Harriet Tubman said, which was incredibly smart about, because she led to freedom thousands of people, out of the South by, at night. And when people said how great that was, she always said, I could have saved thousands more if only they knew they were slaves. So I think it's a consciousness question. It's a consciousness question. It is. As long as you feel that your welfare is dependent entirely on that person over there, you're more likely to vote that person's self-interest. I'm not excusing it, but I do think that that's a big reason.
Well, okay, I'm going to take a quick pause. Are there audience questions? And if there are, what's happening with that?
Okay. Or audience answers, we can use answers.
While we're figuring that piece out, so here we are. Obviously, there's like 1 million people in here that for whom you are their hero. And as it should be.
Okay, but I can't tell you how much you are my hero. I mean, I am the most tech-phobic person. Thank you.
Me too. But I think that sometimes what happens when we've dedicated our lives to something, when we let our passion lead what we do every single day, is that people look at us as if we are, well, as my mother would say, as if our shit doesn't stink. Right? So my question for you is, tell me about a time when you've changed your mind about something, or when you felt like you were wrong about something and had to face that. Because y'all just listen to whatever we're saying and going, yeah, that's great. And I actually feel like we should be critical, right? Not in the way of like, let me slice and dice everything you've ever said, but in the way of we are all always constantly evolving and growing and learning. So give me an example of a time that you can remember where you have evolved on something that you were really passionate about.
Well, for reasons I don't fully understand, I've always identified myself as a writer. And after years of the movement and Ms. Magazine and schlepping around the country and so on, I just realized that I could not possibly call myself a writer. I was not writing. There was what was wrong with my life. And I realized that for reasons in my childhood, it was hard for me to be in a room by myself. You know, it was depressing.
Yep.
And that I had to get over that. I had to realize that in a room by myself, the universe was still there, if you know what I mean. And it took me quite a few years to get slowly to get over that, to be comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I love being by myself. In fact, this is freaking me out right now. What keeps me going every day is imagining what the world could look like if we were winning. What does a world where we are winning look like for you, Gloria?
Well, you know, if you get interested, I'm really interested in the cultures, the history that we don't learn about, you know? I mean, who lived on Manhattan Island before the Europeans showed up, and who the Quay and the San were in Africa, and right. So just the whole idea of existing without categories, without categories that were unique. So we invented gender. We invented race. We can. Old languages don't have he. So I just think we're yearning for and going for a world in which we are two things: unique individuals, as I was saying before, could never have happened before, could never happen again, and all human beings, and also beyond monotheism, because monotheism is all about putting everything sacred in one white guy, you know. when the original spiritualities said that godliness was present in all living things, you know, in flowers and animals, and I think that's a kind of cellular memory that we're trying to get back to.
Yes.
I mean, first we have to make all the bad words good. I mean, this is a process, right? I understand that. But eventually we're going to get to the unique individual plus the universal.
Okay, last question. Well, maybe I have a couple more. Okay, so I am a lifelong student of you and your work. And I am.
But that's not, okay. You have gone so far beyond. Really? Has she not? Right. Okay.
I mean, we're going there together. So, I've realized that there are a lot of quotes of yours that are like out there in the world, all through music in particular. So, anybody a U2 fan? You just gonna let me expose myself like that? I see y'all. All right, well, for the U2 fans out there, there is a quote that is yours. Every woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Okay, I have to say that is not my quote. I heard it, and I said it, and then people attributed it to me. And I spent years saying on any available radio interview show or something, who said this. And it turned out, and I have the woman's letter pinned to my bulletin board at home. I'd be glad to email you her name. Because finally, I was on a radio show, and it's a woman in Australia who, when she was a university student, had put that on the wall of a women's room, and it sort of traveled around the world. But it was absolutely not mine. And since I love quotes, and my next book is a whole book of quotes, mine and other people's quotes, I think it's really important to know who said it. So I'm going to email to
Well, that was going to be my question, which was, do people ever attribute things to you that you didn't actually say? So now let me fact check this other thing. The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. That's yours?
That's mine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mine.
Just checking. Shout out to Big Frida and Riri for putting that in the jam. Yes, audience questions? You coming in. Okay, so we have some more good stuff for you. But first, let me bring on...
Hey, everybody.
Leanne.
All right, so we're going to do 2 audience questions. Don't jump at once, but we got the mics.
I'm right here.
You ready? You ready? All right. We're going to give you like 10 seconds to jump up and think about it. Say your name, where you live. Right there. There you go.
And the question.
Question for Gloria.
Raise your hand. Who's doing
And
it?
the white, with the white and the tie, I believe.
In the back.
Hi. Hi, Gloria. Can you see me?
Come forward.
Come forward. Come forward.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Here they come in the white.
See me now? Okay. So I have a friend, and she's been labeled as a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. She messaged me just today, and she's been having some challenges because she feels like the, new wave feminism that is more inclusive is erasing the identity of women who have fought for women's rights for so long. I'm not so sure what to tell her. I mean, I explained to her I'm a LGBT activist from Barbados, and I told her essentially the plight of trans women throughout the world, especially trans women of color. What would you say to her? She's been labeled as a TERF, but where her heart is, I'm not so sure.
We all have our own unique story.
Yeah.
I mean, and we have a right to our own unique story. And at the same time, we are viewed as groups. So anybody who wants to cast their lot, with us and live as a woman, I say, okay. Are you sure you want to do this? But But I don't think there's any way other than letting each person identify ourselves. I don't see any way that's right that's not that. Does that make sense? Now, I realize that there's certain ironies here because the same thing might not be said of race because not having had the experience of living as a person of color. So there are certain contradictions here, as we would say. But nonetheless, I still think we have to allow people to self-identify.
It's tough. This is tough. All right, we picked one that side. I'm going to go over here in the purple because that is Gloria's favorite color.
Hey, purple.
You want to stand up? Your name, where you're from, and your question. They're coming. They're coming.
Hi, I'm Cian from DC, and my question is very simple, but very complicated. You've been a professional badass for decades, and most of us have given our hand at badassery as well, and we get tired or burnt out and such. And it's certainly difficult to be a badass in this age of disinformation and fake news and such, and you've been a message maker for a long time. So my question is, how do you sustain yourself, and what can we do practically to battle the disinformation that's happening right now?
Well, in my experience, what sustains us is each other. We are communal animals, okay? If there's a reason why solitary confinement is counted as torture all over the world. And the only thing I worry about in terms of tech is that you may spend more time looking at a screen than being together in this way. And because this is what keeps our spirits up. We only produce the famous hormone oxytocin, which allows us to empathize with each other when we are together with all five senses. So what keeps me going are you, being here with you, friends, and the path toward despair is isolation or too much aloneness.
On that note, we want to thank Gloria for coming and welcome her as an official member of the squad. We are here for all of your tech challenges and for all of your communal times that you need us. So thank you so much.
And thank you for using your womb.
I know, right? My wife needs to say that more. She said, thanks for using my womb. I was like, I will accept that.
is at stake right now, which is a lot for any kind of startup. So this is a very exciting moment.
Yeah. Should we maybe charge a fee for announcing this? 20% of it goes to the MCs.
That's just mean.
That's mean?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
15 is better. Okay, so we want to bring back the pitchers to the stage, so find your way back. And then we want to bring up the judges.
All right, Arlen, come on back up.
Leanne and Amy.
Okay.
Okay. You guys had a big decision to make. Very important.
They've been locked in deliberations in a secret chamber.
Okay. Now let's bring back Jess, Suma, Jasmine, Chastity, and Melissa.
All right, welcome back. There you go.
Great.
Okay, judges. Have you selected who's going to announce?
Okay, great. Judges,
tell us.
Have you decided?
Can we get a little drum roll?
Oh, very good, very good, very good.
Yeah. So on top of the $10,000, Arlen has actually offered to meet with all of you one-on-one.
What?
Fast Company has offered a free subscription for the winner. Amy here from the River has offered a free membership to the Riveter for the winner.
Wow.
And then Microsoft for Startups has a few other things as well. So there's if anyone else wants to offer things, you just email me and I'll pass them over. So I want to say all of you were exceptional, and we really believe, some of you are at different stages in this process. We did this, we haven't done the pitch competition in a while, and it was really important for us to bring this back because entrepreneurship is so much a part of that economic opportunity we were talking about and that economic power that we have to make sure we do as a community. And so we're really committed to bringing that back and supporting all of you through your journey in creating economic power for our community. So thank you all for doing what you're doing, because we know this is not easy. With that said, another drum roll. The winner is 5 to 9.
That is great.
Thank you ever so much. Now go eat.
Yes. We'll see you back here at 2:00. Get here, get a seat.
There are
We
plenty of
cannot wait.
breakouts happening all around. Check your books.